Some more parts have just arrived for the build, so we're going to get right on it. I'm going to explain to you what these parts are going to do, and hopefully they do exactly what I need them to do. We have the Ktuned mount side pulley kit. So what this is going to be, this is going to replace our factory CRV post mount and our OEM tensioner, which was this guy right here, and our OEM idler. This is going to be the new setup right here. So our post mount is going to replace that guy right there, and then from the post mount, this guy is going to mount on here. We have a whole bunch of adjustments on here. We have more adjustments for belt tension. This is our main belt tension, but if we need more, we can move this black idler around, and it's just going to be flush right here. And this is going to be for big, this kit is made for big manifolds. So big manifold. Obviously we can't run the OEM stuff anymore. We're just going to start installing this. Hopefully this works. You guys are going to check it out. My woman's texting me, and let's get right to work. Now that we got the old post mount out, I want to explain to you guys what you should look for if you want to order your own kit, because there's not just one kit. There's certain selections you're going to have to get to suit your application. So I'm going to show you the post mounts side by side. It bolts up the same way. There's just, instead of using the one locating stud, now they supply you with some bolts. But let me explain this. So obviously the Ktuned part is made out of billet aluminum. Now if we're going to focus right here, it says 24. So now this is the K24 post mount, obviously, because that's what we need to use when we put a K24 or a K20, K24 in the RSX. So if you have a K20, K24 Frank swap, or just a full K24, when you go to check this out, you need to make sure you get the K24 mount. If you have a K20, just make sure you check the K20 mount, because they're obviously different. So that's the only difference there. They supply you with hardware, so they give you the Allen screws to go in here, then they give you the 2 bolts to replace the locating stud right here and the other bolt. Now I was looking at these, honestly, where is it? This guy right here. I'm not a fan of these cap bolts. I'm more of like, I like flange bolts. So flange bolts are here, I'll show you. For example, on the motor mount one, they already have like the washer on it. It gives it a flange rather than this. You have to put a washer. I'm just not a fan of these, but I'll probably get another set to replace these to flange bolts on the top. So that's basically what I need to look for. If you have a Frank swap, you need to get the K24 side bracket. If you have just a regular stock K20, make sure you get the K21. And that's it. Now we're gonna pretty much put it on. I was gonna try to torque these down when I put it on, but I don't even have a jack under my motor right now. Since I have solid mounts all around, I still have the front, the passenger, and the rear mount holding the motor. This thing didn't even move when I took this off. So I have no movement to shift this. There's no way I could fit a torque wrench down there. So I'm just going to have to snug it up as best as I could, but that'll be alright. So we're going to put those on, and I'll get to this right now. I'm not going to just bolt this guy on. Nothing against Ktuned at all. But just for my peace of mind, I'm going to take this out. Actually, this is the only one. I'm just going to take this bolt out, and I might put some blue Loctite on it just so it doesn't back out. Actually, you know what? I'll verify it. I'm not even going to put blue Loctite just because they give you different adjustments in case I do need to adjust it. When it's all on the car, I'll double check this. I'll get a torque spec for this, and I'll torque it down and make sure it's good. So next thing, I'll put this on the car. So just looking at this setup, the way it's sitting, I can tell you right now it's going to come right back off. So the reason it's coming back off is because these bolts, the OEM bolts, look horrible compared to everything else that's looking on there. So I'm going to get new bolts for this. Flange bolts, they're going to be new just because of how tight it is right here. There'd be no way I can get the socket head socket to fit right here or even down here without taking or loosening up other motor mounts and shifting the motor so I can get more clearance. So with flange bolts, I could just put a wrench and tighten those. But here it is. This is the way it's going to sit. I'll give you guys a better look around the other way. I'm super impressed with the clearance right here. I mean, I can't believe it. It fits so perfect. Here's our clearance to our manifolds. This is obviously going to be good, but just how tight they kept it on the water neck, on the water housing, and towards the alternator and everything, it's perfect. So now with this kit, if you were running their, let's say was the power steering and AC delete kit, I'm pretty sure you can reuse that belt. Or if you bought this EP3 idler pulley from them, when it was to delete the, I think it's the same, just to delete power steering. It might be also for AC as well. They give you a belt with this kit, so you can reuse that belt. So I have the belt still down here. Actually, you know what? Looks like there's a part number on it if I pull it up. Here's a part number. You could probably get this anywhere then. 7PK1320. So they just have their logo on it. So this belt is going to fit. If we need to make more adjustments, obviously our adjusting nut is down here. So we'll back this off. We'll loosen this guy up. So this guy is this front set screw. Loosen this up, and then this will slide up and down, and then you adjust it here. You lock the lock nut, and your belt has got tension. And if that's not enough, then like I was showing you before, this black pulley down here, you could take the black pulley off, and there was some more adjustments to move the pulley higher or lower in case you had to. So since those are coming out, I'm not going to tighten this completely. I'm going to put the whole setup together. We're going to rod our belt, see what it looks like, but I'm not going to finalize anything. Here's what it looks like when you finally have the belt mounted. I thought I was going to have to readjust that lower black pulley, but I still have just enough because I almost maxed this tension out right here. But we have a good amount of tension on it. Like I said, I'll loosen it up again, but good tension on the belt. Here's our routing. If you can see it, so it goes around the crank pulley, right? So around the crank pulley, up around the lower black one, around this, down the alternator, and from the alternator it goes over the water pump, and from the water pump straight down back to the crank. That's where you're going to do it. I'm repeating myself here, so put the mount on, make sure that it's probably going to be a little harder because now there's no stud to line up, so I may have to get a pry bar and try to shift the motor over a little bit just to get it started, but we're only going to loosely thread it. All put back together for the most part. I did have to pry it over. That's why you can see this one right here is not running all the way down because I can't even twist it since the engine is trying to push back. But if you're curious on how I did it, I just put a rag right here on the frame rail. So I stuck the pry bar down there, and when I pried over, I pried against this bolt right here. So the pry bar went down like this, leaning up against the bolt, and I just kind of like shifted the motor forward. And when I did that, I was able to start this. This one started up, but I can loosen it up a little bit, but most of the tension is in the back right here. So we'll just leave this like that for now. Like I said, we're not going to tighten it up, but you can see how much uglier those little motor mount bolts look, or the post mount bolts. That's got to get changed, and it's kind of like a little secret. Here, I'll let you in a little secret. So when I'm looking at somebody's car, I'm actually looking for bolts and like hoses and like all the little details that somebody tries to hide. I look for those because I feel like the little details really finish a build and show how much time and passion was put into it. Not to say that somebody who doesn't do all that didn't put as much passion in it, but like for me, I'm going over this whole engine bay again, and I'm finding all these little nuts and bolts that just look horrible. And I want it to be when somebody walks up to my car, any point that they look at the car, there was something done, like it was touched. So that's when I'm looking at somebody's car, I'm always looking for those little details. That's why I'm really being a stickler about them this time around. And that's just an eyesore. It's driving me nuts. So anyway, Now that this is back together, we're gonna do a couple other little things since we're already in the garage. I have the AN finisher caps that I was talking to you about in the I think it was the last video. So we're gonna button up the PCV system finally. We're going to put the finisher caps on. We're gonna be done with that headache. Let's throw the fuel filter in it. We're already here. I keep staring at it. We're gonna put that in. It's gonna be quick. I don't know if you guys ever saw. If you're new, you probably haven't seen, but where I have the fuel filter located under the car in line, we'll change that real quick. I'm gonna fix a ground, and yeah, so let's take the PCV hose off. I'll show you the finisher caps in case you've never used them or you've never seen them, and we'll keep going. These little guys, they call them finishers. All they are is they'll go at the end of a hose, give it the illusion like if it's an AN hose, but it's not because it has the little hose clamp on the inside. It's one of those little details that there's no point in converting this to an AN. Put a little cap on it. It just makes it look a little nicer, in my opinion. So we're gonna do that. I'll try to do it with one hand. I don't think I can though. But basically, you're just going to push this in. Oh, I'm not even showing you. Look, push this in right here. I leave some tape on it just so it doesn't fray. Here you can see it went right in. We'll have to probably loosen this up a little bit. Right here. That's not happening. Alright, so you loosen this up, make it flush, just like that. Then you push it in, tighten up your hose clamp, and you're good. On the manifold right here, on the barb fitting, I don't even need a clamp. So what I'm going to do is probably take the hose clamp off and just leave the finisher on it. On the PCV, it was a little looser, but there's not going to be that much pressure. I might take the clamps off of both of them and just see how it fits. So let's do that. I decided not to use the hose clamps just because I don't really need them, and it's just going to be a little pain to try to get in there and tighten them. So that's it. That's just something to make it look a little nicer. What else? So we're still waiting on bolts, the T-bolts for our rad, our upper hose. So I'm not going to fill the system yet. Like I said, we'll get our Ktuned fuel filter. Now where this filter is, here I'm going to show you. So my filter is right here, right under the car. I have one of those cushion clamps, just holding it up. It's super simple. 2 AN lines right there to them. Loosen those up. Take the filter off, put the other one right back in line. Now, I think these Ktuned ones are, like you could take them apart and clean them, but they're only $30. And when you think about time versus money, hang on. When you think about time versus money, so $30, that's really nothing for another filter. But if I was a shop owner, right? One day. And somebody was asking me to do this, I'm gonna charge them like an hour's worth of labor to take it out, take it apart, clean it, make sure it's, it is clean, put it back together, and make sure it's fine or it doesn't leak. It's not worth it. It's just so much easier and quicker just to take it off, put the other one in, tighten it, done. It's the way I looked at it. Now, if the filter was a little more expensive, I'd probably look into cleaning it, but it's not worth it. 30 bucks. Let's just replace it.
That means you're extra extraordinary.
Thing to note before you install this is there is an in and an out. So in is where the fuel obviously is coming in and where it goes out to the motor. So in our case, since the front of our motor is to the left, we're going to flip it this way because it's coming in from the tank and then it's going out towards the motor. Now I'm not sure if I ever showed you guys the part number. I honestly can't remember, but if I haven't, here's the part number for this fuel filter. It's a 6 AN fuel filter. You can get this in an 8 as well, so whatever size you need. You could decide that at the you know, at the checkout cart. That's pretty much gonna wrap up what we're doing in the garage today. Those were the extra parts that I got in. We're still waiting on more parts, and like, trust me guys, I don't really mean to sound like so repetitive, but intake piping, actually intake piping. Intake piping is where we're at. And once we can get, so I ended up getting a Ktuned Hall Effect TPS sensor anyway. I said I was gonna make this one work. I was thinking about it. I was trying to find the plugs for the TPS sensor, and I got a set. They were the wrong set, and I've just been looking at the radiator hose, and I was, you know what? I'm not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna get the Hall Effect one. That way, it has the harness already on it, and I can wrap it. I can get around the radiator hose without having to worry about a connector touching it. So that's got to come, but you know, that ain't gonna be too big. And then we can finally throw our valve cover on, the red one, because some people have commented on it. I should change it. That's not the final valve cover. That has always been my mock-up valve cover that I put on whenever I'm doing work. So that's gonna go on, and yes, please guys, I'm gonna talk about this again. And the last video I posted up was it was I don't know what to call it. It's not a podcast. It's just talk. It's just conversation. It's just topics that we're talking about. Definitely leave more topics in this comment in the comments of this video. I want you guys feedback. I want to know what you guys want to know. What do you want to know? Leave it in the comments, and I'm gonna put it in a separate video. I'm gonna get guys on there with me. We're gonna talk cars. We're gonna talk cars. We're gonna talk the race scene. We're gonna talk anything you guys want to know. Leave it in the comments, and like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Stay motivated and keep making those streets louder.